Video where you hold.
I have to keep my finger on.
There we go.
Okay. We're calling the Surveillance Advisory Board meeting to session, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, I'll do roll call. So Chair Lee,
Here?
Vice Chair Moreno is absent. Board Member Bras,
Present.
Board Member Naran,
Present.
Board Member Stewart. Here. Board Member Cohen Thompson.
Here.
Board Member Owen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on to the community forum, do we have any guests from the community that wish to speak?
Through the chair, we do not currently have any members of the public that have signed up for the community forum. However, I did start a 2-minute timer, which is located on the top left corner of your screens for interested parties to sign up, either by going to the back of the council chambers and punching in their information into our terminals, or if you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand and we will call on you that way. But in the meantime, feel free to carry on with the agenda. If anybody signs up, I'll let you know.
Thank you. Okay, moving on with the consent calendar and approval of the agenda. Approval of minutes for the April 16th meeting.
So moved.
Through the chair, if I can ask a quick question. Before we approve the agenda, can we move up item 11A and take that before the action calendar? Just given that usually we hold PD staff here and they may not all need to stay, if we just kind of take care of that quickly, as the other 4 items on action may be a little bit of a lengthy discussion.
Okay, if I understand Board Member Stewart's recommendation, you want to move the information calendar up front?
Yeah, just take item 11A first before we take the action calendar. That way we don't keep PD here for discussions that they necessarily aren't a part of.
Thank you, Board Member Stewart. That's a great idea. And maybe moving forward, we could put that in the regular agenda. Okay, can we vote on that?
Sure, I guess I'll move the item, I'll move consent with that amendment.
Second?
Okay. Chair Lee,
Yes.
Vice Chair, Board Member Bras,
Yes.
Board Member Naran,
Yes.
Board Member Stewart,
Yes.
Board Member Cohen,
Yes.
Board Member Owen.
Yes.
So, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion for the approval of the minutes?
Oh, I approve the whole consent calendar.
Oh, you did?
That was
Okay.
a motion.
You were second on that?
I was second.
Who made the motion? Sorry.
I did. I made the motion with the amendment.
No.
Yeah, you made the amended motion.
Correct.
And You second? Oh, you second, okay.
Got it. Okay. So just to be clear, we're now voting on the minutes, or was that vote for that amendment? Oh, okay, got it. Okay, so we have move on to the reports. Secretary has nothing to report.
Chair has nothing to report.
Nothing to report from the city attorney's office. Randy Reisner apologizes for his absence today.
And
Do we have the city council liaison?
Good evening, board, staff, and general public. Vice Mayor Matulak filling in for Councilmember Bergenzer today, and apologize for his inability to be here. But no true report here, but I just wanted to acknowledge from a city council perspective is that the important work that this board does, the Surveillance Advisory Board, that we value your opinion, your vote, and your discussions here, because a lot of what this board does are the things that we're looking to as a city council to help advance the technology, utilizing the technology in its current state, but also supporting a lot of the things that the police department that we can help support them with their staffing challenges right now, and looking to this board to help identify things that we can help support them with. So just wanted to once again acknowledge the important work that you guys do, and we look forward to hearing a lot of your comments and perspectives. So that would be my report. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
No, thank you. In my capacity as chair, I don't have a report, but I'm going to say I do have a report in my capacity as an ad hoc committee member, and I'll save that for the action calendar. But do any of the board members here wish to make a report? Okay. Moving on to the action calendar. The first item is generative AI and AI-enabled analytical tools.
Through the chair, we're in item 11A now.
Right. Yeah, thank you. So Captain Bautista.
Good evening, board. We've provided you with regular technology usage reports, our drone flight log, our Raven comparison, Raven audio alerts, our cell site simulator deployment log, ALPR, and I just wanted to note that on the ALPR log, due to a network error, we were unable to get the correct reading for the hot list LPR reads. So once Flock fixes that, then I can send it back out to you guys. I'll give you guys a second to look over this, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Maybe I have a question while people are reading over just about what you just mentioned, the LPR error. Can you expand a little bit more about what the error was? Did it prohibit use of the LPR system at any point, or is it just in reporting the specific number?
Yes, it was just that. It was just reporting the specific number. It did not affect any of the operational use at all.
Okay, through the chair, I have a follow-up to that. So can you actually explain what the error is? And, is it you said it's a Flock problem, so is it like their network? Is it the cloud system? Like, what's the actual issue? And then, I'll leave it there first.
From what my crime analyst advised me, who generates these reports, it was a network error on the side of Flock.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
No. I don't know anything further except for the network error on Flock. I don't know what their technical issues are. I could certainly look into it and report back.
Yeah, could you ask and then give us the information? I guess via email will be fine, just so we have an understanding of what the actual issue is.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. There's been some discussion lately of other jurisdictions finding that their data is being accessed. We talked about that and how that was a default setting that Flock set, that once we fixed it, that problem went away. However, I'm curious to know if there are additional auditing settings that allow us to see when people access our data beyond just the approval we give when people request it. So is there a log of people outside of the Vallejo Police Department who accessing data for our system? And do we need to turn something on in order to get that data?
So I could start with discussing some of the safeguards that were put into place, just as a reminder. So they disabled the national lookup feature for all California agencies. That was in March of 2025. And then they blocked out-of-state agencies from creating data sharing relationships with California agencies. And that was in June of 2025. And then they reviewed current sharing settings and with customer consent, revoked any remaining one-to-one sharing with out-of-state agencies in June of 2025 as well. So it's no longer possible for California agencies to create sharing relationships out of state or federal agencies, either deliberately or by mistake, and such sharing cannot be enabled by Flock.
Great. So my specific question is, are there additional settings that increase the information that we get through the audit feature? And so that's my question. Like, is there some configuration that would increase the detail or the scope of the audit records that we get from Flock?
Are you referring to outside agencies inquiring our information?
No, I mean, that would be included, but it would also include, Flock employees, this kind of thing. So I'm just curious, is there additional settings we could change to increase the scope of the audit records that we get?
I don't know that offhand.
Yeah.
However, at our next meeting, I could certainly, if you guys have like specific questions that you would like to ask that are like more technical beyond my knowledge, I could certainly invite a Flock representative so you can hear it directly from them.
Yeah, I didn't. I understand that you don't have an answer right now, and it's a kind of an awkwardly phrased question, but this topic has been bouncing around, and so I wanted to start this discussion. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
To the secretary, in advance of our next SAB meeting, would you be able to take email questions from all the board members, compile them, and direct them to Captain Bautista so that he can prep for our next meeting for those answers?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I do have a follow-up to that, and I'm happy to hold it to a future item, because I know we have a surveillance media-related item that will touch on LPR, and I'm happy to hold my question till then, but I know the purpose of moving this information calendar here was to allow you some flexibility if you don't have to be here. So I guess I'd look for some direction from the chair. Do we want to get in on LPR now, or should I hold my comments till later?
Thank you for that, Board Member Bras. I think now would be a good opportunity since we do have Captain Bautista present now.
So I would add to the question that my council member just raised about the LPR system with respect to VPD's own auditing as well. not just how Flock treats its auditing system, but we are aware that VPD does its own audit of the LPR system, but from my understanding, it's only really been done once. It's done once a year, and it's a selection of 10 random uses of the system across the year. That seems like a very, very, very small sample size given the amount of images we're getting from the Flock system, unless I am misunderstanding how we're doing that audit. I also read that in that audit we had an actual instance of a misuse, or what the VPD may have, I don't know how you want to phrase it, but a use of the system that was inappropriate. And we don't have much details about what that use was. So my questions, and there will be a bunch, are what can we do to make sure that VPD is actually auditing this system much more regularly and more thoroughly? Also, the auditing system seems only to address VPD's own use and its own employees. I don't know that we've ever done an audit as a city of the system to address whether there have been federal or outside agency uses of Vallejo's LPR data. I don't know that that's covered by the audit that's currently being done. So I'd like to know the answer to that, and if it's not being done, I think we have to insist that it is. And finally, I'd like to know a little bit more about this instance of misuse of the system. It sounds like it was treated as a personnel issue, and it was raised appropriately through professional ethics, but we just have very little insight into that, so I would ask that if it is public information or can be shared with us, that it is, because I don't know what the status of that investigation is. So I do have a lot of concerns about our current auditing of LPR, some of it related to the surveillance media item we have later in the agenda, which is El Cerrito deciding just earlier this month to shut off their LPR system due to a finding that Flock was misusing their system in the past, or if Flock wasn't intentionally misusing it, it was being misused. I worry that we don't know whether that's the case here, and we can make a determination about that. So I've been talking a long time, and there's a lot of questions, but these are issues that I hope to have a full conversation with you about, and I hope you can answer some of them now, but if you need to go back and we can have a more robust conversation with more questions at our next meeting, I think we need to have that.
Yes, so with regards to the auditing, that was a conversation I was hoping to have during our auditing subcommittee meeting. And we do have one scheduled for the first week of June. So we could certainly look further into that and the different types of auditing that the SAB would like to see, whether it's based on frequency and things of that nature. With regards to this incident that you're discussing where we found a misuse, so prior to the safeguards being put in place where it was a mandatory field to enter a reason or a case number, those were not in there. So there could be a broad investigation like saying crime instead of putting like an actual incident or case number associated with it. So that issue was addressed, and a broad, I don't remember what it was, but a broad reason was given versus a specific incident number or case number. And so that issue was addressed.
If I could follow up quickly on that, are you saying that a broad reason was given, but upon further review, it was an appropriate use?
Yes.
Okay. And will there be a report about that will be public?
No, those are internal per our policy.
Board Member Cohen.
I just
Cohen
wanted
Thompson.
that clarity about HR situations in the force, that those don't come before us because those are personnel issues.
Yes, ma'am.
That we get the results of maybe what needed to outcome, but we don't review any of that.
No.
Correct?
Yes.
I want that to be in the record. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
So, acknowledging that there was a misuse identified in an audit, which is under our purview, what sort of information can we expect to receive other than the general acknowledgement that there was a misuse?
I would have to discuss that further with the administration.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question, not related to this, but do we get drone reports? Or
Yes.
like how we?
It's there. The drone log is there. The drone log,
Oh, I didn't look.
it looks like this.
This one? Oh, right. Okay, thank you. I've been like looking for the whole time.
I appreciate the board putting the information calendar ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Bautista and Police Department. Okay, moving on now to the action calendar. Item A, generative AI and AI-enabled analytical tools as they relate to surveillance technologies already under the board's oversight, including whether such features constitute a material change requiring board review.
Yeah, I believe the attorney's office has something to add to this.
So I was informed two things that Mr. Board Member Moreno was the one that originally requested this item, and he's absent today, as well as Mr. Reisner, who's absent. So I can provide a brief update that was provided to me about this policy, or the board could vote to continue this
No.
item to the next meeting, but I'll take your
Please share whatever knowledge you have now.
Because the policy regarding AI, generative AI use, is currently being drafted as it applies citywide, and that will encompass use for surveillance technologies. The policy is still being drafted, but once it's ready to be shared, it will be shared with this board if that's the direction of the board.
Thank you. And my understanding is the board will have an opportunity to review and provide suggested edits before publishing, correct?
Correct. That is my understanding as well.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay. So moving on to, actually, yeah, any public comments?
Through the chair, no speakers signed up for this item in question.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item B, which is hold a substantive discussion regarding the potential development of a facial recognition policy and provide direction to staff on next steps. I can't recall who suggested this.
I think I suggested it, but I think Councilmember Ross has also been involved, so there's been some discussion. And we've had this discussion and so, am I not coming through? Okay. So I think that there's some general agreement we should make this policy. So I guess the question is, are we going to create a committee and proceed?
Can you clarify what some of you're going up and down? So if you could repeat that.
Yeah, okay, so, well, that's better. Yes, so there have been several discussions of facial recognition policy with regard to specific technologies, and because this topic keeps coming up, it seems that an overall policy would be better rather than relitigating or rediscussing this every time we have a new piece of technology. We certainly expect any camera-based surveillance technology being used today that does not have a facial recognition will have it soon. So the proposal was we write a policy that's applicable across all technologies, and then we don't have to keep discussing it. It's also helpful for anybody who's negotiating with these vendors. They can say, "This is our policy. Do you meet it?" Right, as opposed to coming back and having to have this conversation here. So for those reasons, it seemed wise to come up with a facial recognition policy that's not specific to a given surveillance technology.
Thank you for those thoughts, Board Member Owen. And with that, I'd like to propose is there any public comment on this item before we?
Through the chair, yes, we do have one member of the public who has signed up for this item. Joey Carrizales, please approach the podium.
Thank you.
Jose Carrizales. I'm kind of taken aback by the suggestion by the committee member. Public must have the opportunity to to express their viewpoints. This type of technology is not a foolproof technology, facial recognition. It is required to be discussed. The citizens of Vallejo or any city should have the opportunity to express their viewpoints, whether in agreement or disagreement. And just to create a policy just because it doesn't have to take up your time, committee members' time to discuss it is insufficient. It's insufficient. It destroys the ability, it makes us as citizens, it possibly may make the citizens feel like we're not engaged. Our voice don't matter. But we are a city that has been impacted. I've lived here 14 years, and the well-documented public of the abuse of this police agency, they requires that these items be discussed by the citizens. It requires the citizens to have an opportunity. There's bias in the facial recognition. There's aging and appearance changes. People's facial features change over time due to aging, weight changes, simple appearance variations such as haircuts, facial hair, or makeup. A system trained on a person's younger image may not correctly identify the same person years later. The facial technology is not based on merit. Ethical and privacy concerns. Facial recognition technology raises significant privacy and ethical concerns. Improper deployment can lead to invasive surveillance or misuse. The gentlemen who were just here already expressed an error in the flock system. Already discussed it. My young friend here tried to get an answer from the guy, but he said, "I didn't know." He said, "I don't know." The three famous words to dismiss ourselves from requiring an answer. I don't know. I'll just leave it to somebody else. My last, the public must be involved in these decisions. We have earned the right to our voice to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments.
Through the chair, no other speakers at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a comment on that.
Yes.
All right, this is public, and to the gentleman that just spoke, this committee is already in process of establishing community engagement, like i.e. town hall meetings, so that you will have input. So we're setting up a lot of policies, so you will not be in the dark in the near future. That should be coming out with some of the other policies that we're doing. Community engagement is very, very important, and we recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Questions? Okay, my question to the city attorney, I'd like for us to have the opportunity to vote on establishing a subcommittee to develop a facial recognition policy. In order for that vote, do I need to vote to agendize for the next meeting? Is that one of those
Yes,
requirements?
because this one is about providing
Okay,
staff direction
right.
on next steps.
So I'd like to move to have that vote to agendize for the next meeting.
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Chair Lee,
Yes.
Board Member Bras,
Yes.
Board Member Naran,
Yes.
Board Member Stewart,
Yes.
Board Member Cohen Thomas,
Yes.
Board Member Owen.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously to agendize the subcommittee to address this facial recognition policy.
Thank you, Secretary. Now, before moving on to the next item, any other comments or questions about item B?
Yeah, very quickly, I did want to note that developing a policy for facial recognition right now is taking no position, no substantive position on what that policy may be. I would note that there are dozens of jurisdictions that have banned facial recognition use by the police department, including San Francisco. And I don't want our creation of an ad hoc committee that will look into developing a policy to be interpreted as a position on facial recognition one way or another. There's good time to discuss and consider that. In fact, that's what the ad hoc committee will be doing, really getting into the details on what sort of policy should be formed. And then the entire council here will vote on that in a public meeting. So there will be, the way things move here, I would say we have at least 2 or 3 more public opportunities to discuss this at length. So I want to ensure the public that we want you engaged. We want you back here giving your commentary because it is helpful. It is what we do this for, to hear the public comment, and that's why we volunteer. So I just wanted that to be clear in the record.
Thank you for your comments. Moving now to the ad hoc committee updates. Actually,
Just briefly, is there any direction to staff with regards to item 10B? Any specific direction from the board to city staff with regards to item 10B?
we just voted to agendize for the next meeting.
Okay.
The creation of a subcommittee to discuss to develop a facial recognition policy.
But in the meantime, we have an ad hoc.
Yeah, I do have a request. It would be helpful to see if other jurisdictions in California are also passing and have passed these policies, and to have a look at them. So if you can provide those, that would be very helpful.
Okay, understood.
Thanks.
Could I add one more thing? Additionally, can you bring back at the next meeting or whenever you bring this back, just facial recognition data and data on the accuracy of different systems, as well as just the different systems that are out there. I'm sure there's multiple companies that are developing facial recognition software, and so I'd like to see what those companies are, and then again their success rates, some of the any particular updates that they've had to do over the course of I won't say their inception, but just maybe the last 5 years. I think that would be super helpful.
So just to summarize, 2 specific requests. One regarding what cities are currently using facial recognition software for law enforcement purposes. And
Moving on to ad hoc committee updates. We currently have two ad hoc committees. We have a community engagement ad hoc committee, and then we also have an audit committee. Would members of the audit subcommittee wish to make a report?
Sure. Very briefly on the audit subcommittee, which is myself and Councilmember Cohen Thompson, we have not yet met with VPD, but we do have a date. I believe it's the first, maybe the second day in June, so coming up.
Thank you, Board Member Bross. And then for the other committee, the Community Engagement Committee, we have Board Member Moreno, who's absent. And then we also have Board Member Naran and then myself. And we did meet and we discussed some proposals, initial proposals on community engagement ideas. Of course, it was, the proposals were made not, taking in mind a budget, because we don't have a budget approved by the City Council yet. Hopefully we will. But we did brainstorm some low-cost ideas to raise awareness, to reach out to the community. So one of the ideas that we discussed is having a booth or desk out at farmers market on Saturday mornings, having a banner. Hopefully, we could find an affordable price banner. We could use the tables that the city can provide, and then we could have members of the subcommittee, but also members of the board at large, maybe taking turns, answering questions, and in addition to having a few really short, information, like one-pagers about what the board is, about what some of the issues that we're engaged in, about our charter, and then basically take turns for every board member, maybe if whoever's available, to be at the booth for 1 to 2 hours for that five-ish hour farmers market period. And then another idea that we brainstormed to generate a lot more visits to our booth would be I or some a member of the subcommittee can go on OzCat Radio and at some of their community forum shows and talk about the SAB and why the SAB was created, and then also just generally broadcast to the community, invite folks to physically engage with us at the farmers market, and in addition to some other community forums, town halls that we also brainstorm. And on that point, I'll ask Board Member Naran to share some thoughts.
Well, the other two things we discussed was, the community town hall meetings. There are always monthly meetings arranged in different districts. We can try to do one for just our committee here. And the other one was Night Outs, which is on October 6th, which is really a good one. So by the time it's October, we have a lot of resources and stuff to hand out. And Night Outs are great because it's organized by each district, and all the people of the community are there. So we all can take turns to go to a different district. Starting with your own district, we can pair in like two people and start with your own district, talk to the people on the street and community and let them know what it is about. And so by the time October comes, which is still time, we have a lot of resources to provide them, what we do and what we have. But before that, we can start with, as the council member mentioned, the farmers market, which is great. It's low cost. And the social media, which he mentioned, that would be a good start to start with. And then we can look into the community hall and then night outs, which is on October 6th.
Thank you, Board Member Naran. Any questions, comments? Board Member Bras, go ahead.
I had a question. I know, or I believe I know, that we have a very small budget, and I'm wondering if this might be an appropriate use for some sort of signage. So if you show up at a farmer's market, people know what you are before they talk to you, some sort of surveillance advisory board sign.
Yes, that's what I proposed, to
Okay.
have a affordable sign for us.
I think what I was trying to say is the city of Vallejo already have like a booth and the stuff like we can use the same booth, but we can create just a banner for our board and we can just put it there. And maybe, as he mentioned, like a one-page flyer or something, so we can hand it out to people, and if they have a question, we can answer them. And we can use the same platform to even on media, like the media buzz on social media through City of Vallejo that, hey, Surveillance Board is going to be having a booth on Farmers Market on this day. If you want to just stop by. Something like use our own social media just to put it out there. Like
And-
just create a flyer and put it out there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Just a quick question about finances. My understanding is we have $600. I guess I'm looking to the city to confirm.
I would have to find out and get that back to you.
And a follow-up would be, in order to spend that money, do we need full board approval? Do you need to come back and get our vote on whether to spend X amount of money, or can we just authorize the ad hoc committee to spend up to X amount so we don't have to wait 2 months for a vote?
I don't know that answer either, but I can find that out too.
Right, whether or not we have to have city council approval, once we have it, whether we need them.
Not city council approval, just full
Right.
board approval.
Okay, all right, okay.
I just don't know I don't know the rule.
I'll find out the answer to that and report back next time, because I'm unsure if that has to be done when the ad hoc committee is set up or if that can be done at a later date.
Great, thank you. And if necessary, I mean, I'm sure we could pre-authorize an expenditure of X amount, so that we're not.
Yeah, we're just looking for one banner. We'll see. We'll find out when the time comes how much it cost, and once they give us the answer.
Any other comments, questions from the board? Okay, before moving on to our last item, surveillance media related items, is there anyone in the community forum wish to speak? Okay.
Through the chair, yeah, nobody signed up for the community forum.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to our last item, surveillance media related items. Secretary, were there any?
Yeah, there was a presentation in your packet that was brought to, I don't know who brought this. Was this?
That was me.
That would be you, Stuart?
Yeah, that was me. I submitted, if you don't mind, through the chair. I submitted it just because it was a lengthy discussion at the El Cerrito City Council. Ultimately, they decided to vote it down 3-2. But I thought the information in the staff report was interesting. And they mentioned that crime was down in their city. And if you look at page 22, actually, it's in black and white, but if you have your computer, it's a much prettier image. There's going to be this giant gap, right? In between, I don't know, you probably call that Albany, from Albany to about Pinole, just because El Cerrito and Richmond will no longer have ALPRs. And so I just think that's an area for us to kind of keep an eye on in terms of crime trends. And I'm not advocating, and I'm not one to say that police prevent crime. Maybe Flock may have its own issues, and let's really kind of separate the technology from the company. And if ultimately we find that Flock may have one too many issues for us to bear, maybe we look at another company. But again, I just wanted to share this information. I thought it was interesting. Again, ultimately they voted it down, but I wanted to share this with the board just in terms of what's happening in other cities around us. So that is it.
Thank you. And that was the only article shared. Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you. Now, moving on.
To the
Through
chair.
the chair, we do have members of the public signed up to speak on that.
Okay, thank you.
And I have comments as well.
First, four speakers that are signed up. We are going to start with Eric McGovern, followed by Shay Grove, then George Aguilar, and then Joey Cardesalis.
Hi, my name is Eric McGovern. I'm a Vallejo resident. I want to make sure that the Surveillance Advisory Board is aware of a video called, quote, "This flock camera leak is like Netflix for stalkers," published by Ben Jordan and 404 Media. It is an 11-minute video that shows flock safety leaving their cameras open to viewing unencrypted outside of their login interface. I recommend that you all watch the video to get details about their security vulnerabilities. In the Monday, May 11th Measure P Oversight Committee meeting, the Vallejo police representative claimed that the flock safety system was secure. However, the City of Vallejo IT department representative admitted that the city's cybersecurity system manager only looks for data breaches for systems owned by the city and within their network. In that discussion, there was no answer from any city official on how the security of these external systems are being evaluated. This is not sufficient, and someone needs to be identified to work with external services to be able to get security audits, and those audits need to be provided to the SAB and the City Council. In addition, the City Attorney's Office and the Vallejo police representatives touted provisions in the contract limiting flock safety from using data gathered from the ALPR cameras for other purposes. While this may protect the city from legal liability for breaches from flock security, it does not protect the City of Vallejo from reputational harm if there is a data breach or other misuse of data. In this committee, the City Attorney's Office representative mentioned a flock safety internal audit module. You've also talked about tonight, but that module, as discussed, is barely being used, and that lack of information doesn't allow you to know whether all the searches used by users in the flock system are being used for valid purposes. This is deeply concerning. The Fourth Amendment is to prevent unlawful searches and seizures. I'm stunned that the City of Vallejo staff has allowed implementation of a system without making sure that system is only being used with a warrant based on probable cause. Systems like this should not be in use without the ability to ensure compliance. This system should be paused until that internal audit module is fully set up and their proper procedures in place. In closing, I will note that the same Measure P Oversight Committee meeting, the City Attorney's Office representative said that, quote, "The current flock camera system has been fully vetted by the Surveillance Advisory Board," end quote. In comments he made in response to public comment before the committee authorized the use of Measure P funds for this system. Given the meetings I've seen of the SAB, I get the impression that you as a board are still working on the organizational structure to ask for information to ensure oversight of these surveillance systems. I wonder if you, as members of the SAB, would say that you have fully vetted the flock camera system. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Next speaker, Shay Grove.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for having us today. As Eric mentioned, the 404 investigation exposes how flock cameras can be left open to public viewing. I want to talk about what that actually means for Vallejo residents. A system that tracks the daily movements of Vallejo residents cannot be treated as vetted if its vendor has a history of catastrophic privacy lapses. As mentioned earlier today in this meeting, there has already been a misuse of this technology, and the answers that you guys were asking for, I didn't hear any. It was pretty vague, and that doesn't instill trust in people in our community. How are we supposed to know what is that lapse in the use of this technology? Who was affected by it? I'd like to know more about that in the future if you would search for those answers. Flock isn't just a Vallejo system. It is a nationwide network. Without a strict internal audit module and clear usage of policies, there's nothing stopping Vallejo's data from being pooled, shared, accessed by out-of-state agencies, or for reasons outside the scope of probable cause warrant. The city attorney heavily leans on Flock's terms of service. However, the terms of service does not prevent a data breach. It only dictates who gets sued if there's a misuse. Taxpayer money, including those appropriated or allocated through Measure P, are now being used for a system that's unsecure and a massive financial and reputational liability for the City of Vallejo. I asked the Security Advisory Board to advise the City Council that the system should not be operational until the internal audit module is fully active. And there are strict, transparent rules about exactly who is running searches and why. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. I have a question. Sorry, I didn't quite hear. You asked the Surveillance Advisory Board to seek certain answers. What were those answers?
There was answers for a lapse in the use of the technology brought up earlier in this meeting, and it was really vague what that was or what the solution to that was. So if that could be more clearly articulated to the community, I would appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next speaker, George Aguirre.
Good evening, Board. I'm here tonight to speak about the Police Department's request for over $300,000 in local sales tax revenue to sustain our massive grid of flock safety cameras. We are currently being told that because our police department is facing a staffing emergency, we have no choice but to rely on automated surveillance as a force multiplier. But replacing human police officers with a corporate tech stack is a dangerous deal. We cannot treat severe systemic problems with an undemocratic tech Band-Aid. While they can vote for funding the Measure P board, this board holds the mandate under Municipal Code Chapter 2.27 to police the city's surveillance policies and ensure our technology protects the civil liberties of Vallejo residents. The VPD has a documented history of using these cameras to illegally share our residents' automated license plate reader data with out-of-state and federal law agencies. This is a direct violation of California Senate Bill 34. We were promised strict local guardrails, yet millions of vehicle scans of innocent Vallejo drivers were dumped into databases accessible nationwide. Once our data hits the proprietary FlockOS platform, we lose local control over who accesses it. Also, you must look at the context of Measure P. Voters passed Measure P to fund community-focused solutions. Instead, we're looking at a budget where we're being asked to spend over $300,000 on automated tracking. How can we justify sending hundreds of thousands of local dollars to a private corporation to spy on our streets when we have never been shown transparent data proving these cameras reduce crime rather than track the innocent? The Surveillance Advisory Board should advise to halt this data collection, and it should be halted until these three demands are met. The SAB's auditing infrastructure is fully operational and complete. Independent technical verification proves that all data sharing strictly complies with California SB 34. And 3, the police department and Flock produce transparent, localized metrics demonstrating tangible public benefits that outweigh severe constitutional costs. Vallejo should not serve as an unvetted laboratory for private surveillance companies. Let's ensure tech compliance comes before tech funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brejo, for your comments.
Final speaker on this item, Jose Carrizales. Please come to the podium.
Gracias, amigo. Jose Carrizales. And the very few, when the SAB was created, I attended the very few first meetings. This technology came before the meeting, before the board. SAB denied the existence or the use. However, because of the inadequacies of that council, they overrode the SAB and allowed. So this technology has a history of being denied in the city of Vallejo. But unfortunately, it was not the words of the SAB, that current SAB, were not accepted. They were dismissed. 30 cities now across the U.S. have terminated their contracts. 3 main reasons: immigration concerns, over 4,000 repeated searches by ICE, trust, an important word within the city of Vallejo, especially for us as citizens, and security failures. The gentleman spoke here earlier about there's an issue with somebody, and board member was questioning, but he couldn't answer. He couldn't answer. How do you really know that there's audits that being within their own force. You're asking the fox to guard a hen house. Mountain View terminated for these reasons. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearm were in accessing. U.S. Air Force was accessing. GSA, Inspector General Office was accessing. Lake Mead National Recreation Area was accessing their system. Do we need that? Are we going to risk that? Is this system more valuable than individual rights? Is it worth it? U.S. lawmakers plan to introduce an amendment Thursday at a House committee markup hearing that would prohibit any recipient of federal highway funding from using automated license plate readers for any purpose other than tolling. A sweeping restriction that, if adopted, would bring an immediate end to state and local ALPR programs across the United States. Now, if this committee allows the flock system, and if this passes, you have given the flock company $300,000. That will be your legacy on this committee.
Through the chair, no other speakers at this time.
Okay, thanks for everyone that spoke, and we really appreciate all of your comments and your passion and activism around surveillance in City of Vallejo. We do have Board Member Brost had some comments.
Yeah, I will briefly, because I already made lengthy comments about the LPR system earlier this evening, but I did want to note that I had a very different reaction, I guess, to the media article, the subject of this current item, than my fellow council member, in that I found it very concerning that El Cerrito's recent actions are based on findings and an audit that uncovered problems with the flock system from years ago. Not current problems, but problems from years ago that really impacted the trust of that community on the flock system. Why that shocked me is because based on the answers I heard tonight and based on what I know about VPD's auditing of the system, we don't even know what has happened in Vallejo that would be synonymous to what El Cerrito ceased their use of flock for. So in other words, our audit, in my opinion, is woefully inadequate to uncover whether there has been misuse in the past. I actually feel more confident going forward than I do on use in the past. But I believe there's a lot of work to be done on building an auditing system for the flock system that is much more functional. And it concerns me that El Cerrito was able to do a much more robust auditing system and found evidence sufficient enough to cease use of the program as a result of that. We haven't even reached that first step of auditing of our system. So I am concerned that we need to move faster, and I am glad that I am on the audit subcommittee, ad hoc committee here, because when I meet with VPD next week, I'm certainly going to be pushing for much more frequent and much more robust auditing of the program.
Thank you, Board Member Bross. Any other questions or comments?
I have a few questions. One, I do agree with you about the audit policy, which is why we work so hard on getting it in the work plan, because, yeah, we are woefully behind the rest of some folks in the state. I do have a couple questions. I don't know if maybe our secretary can answer it, maybe not. I'll just kind of throw it out to the ether. Why was there an ask to the Measure P Commission for $300,000 for flock safety when we just got a grant from our congressman for $240,000, I believe it was, to cover the next 2 years of use?
I was present, but I don't know, other than that they got the presentation and they decided as a unanimous, I believe it was unanimous pass, to recommend it to council.
To recommend that the
That they
council
pay the 300
from Measure P.
for Measure P.
Okay. Because yeah, that the actual contract won't come. Well, I guess it will come before us, but the funding won't come before us. But it just it's like this was maybe 3 or 4 months ago where there was an approval of grant funds or to accept grant funds for it. So it's peculiar that we're gonna. Are they like, is PD looking to expand? Do you know that?
I think they're just addressing the current contract that's in play. I don't know all the details.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Board Member Ollie?
Yeah, I'm curious to know, at this point where we're negotiating with Flock, are we also modifying the contract, and is that a possibility?
The Flock contract was redlined and addressed with a lot of detail to make sure that it was locked down the way we wanted it, and they were willing to comply. So the legal team can probably provide you with some more details on that. Oh, that's already assigned. We've already signed that revised contract.
All right, great. Can we?
In other words, it was signed without some changes, and then they went back and made some additional amendments to it.
Great. Can we get a copy of that?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I have more questions. So, I'm sorry. So now the contract is amended when it went to Measure P. Is that what you're saying? It was amended from what we received here.
You should have the latest from whatever conversations. This is not new. This has been addressed prior.
I guess I'm still stuck on the $300,000 that when it came to us, it was $240 and that was grant funded. So, but okay.
There is some. I think there's a couple of grand in there for maintenance, so that there's some out-of-pocket costs for repairs that are part of our infrastructure, like telephone pole lines that we're paying the utility.
Okay. I'll have to go back and watch Measure P. I'm usually on top of it, but it's been a busy couple of weeks. The last thing is, my understanding from the Flock conversation, I believe it was in November of last year, that Flock informed us that the servers that the data is stored on are Vallejo servers. Is that correct?
You probably have to get that finalized by the attorneys, but it was my understanding that Randy made sure that the data was our data.
And so
this is a SaaS in the cloud service. It's not our infrastructure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Board Member Ross?
I wanted to address very quickly because a couple members of the public brought it up, but earlier tonight I raised that there was an audit of the LPR system, and I guess I will provide my knowledge of what happened in a little more detail in case it's helpful. So there was an audit of the LPR system in January, I believe it was. The current audit process is to take a random selection of 10 events, view those events by different members of the police force and the reasons given for the search of the system during those events. And in one of the 10 incidences and events, it was determined there was a misuse of the system. So that particular officer misused the Flock system for that particular search. We really don't have any other details other than that. What we've heard is that what we heard tonight actually was that the mistake was a broad search term or a reason for search that would typically, I gather, not be allowed as a reason to use the LPR system. But in reviewing it, it was simply the wrong terminology or term used for that search and that the actual search was appropriate. That is what I heard Captain Batista say this evening, but that is really all I know. I know there's a report that will go through the department personnel office and up to the chief, and that we won't get to see it. I've asked tonight to see if there is anything further detail we can get from VPD about the incident, but as of now, that's all I know, and I think that's all the rest of this board knows.
Any other comments or questions? City Attorney?
Yeah, and just briefly on that matter, I believe Captain Bautista said he was going to confer with the supervisors and see what more detail could be provided to the board in a future meeting.
Okay. Let's see. Moving on now to future agenda items. If anyone wants to open the floor to discussion.
All right, I have one, and it may just be covered by the audit policy at some point. But while we're developing one, I know Flock has an audit function that it can produce reports. I'm wondering if there's a way that we can produce audit reports, just like a full download, just throw them up on the web without compromising any, I guess, sources and methods, I'll say. Is that something that can be done?
Cannot speak to that, but I know that when there's data made available, there's a lot you can do with it. So it's all about what is going to be playing out here with the new policies and what the audit practices and what data is going to be made available. So you could do the out-of-box stuff that comes with the product.
Sure.
Will there be extractions and recreating different analytic views? I don't know what they're going to do at this point.
Okay, and so I guess if the board will entertain me, I know we may have some Flock representatives come at the next meeting, and I'll ask this question again. But I would like to potentially agendize maybe creating a page on the Surveillance Advisory's website where we can where that data can be uploaded. And if 2 meetings from now, it's not possible, then I'll just remove that from the agenda. But I would like the opportunity for that, and I don't want this to take forever because of the two-step process. So I like to move forward with creating such a thing, and then if Flock says, it can or can't be done, then we move accordingly. So I'll leave that there. Thank you.
Any other comments for future agenda items, ideas?
To the chair, if we could just get a list of the several items.
Yeah, so agendize the establishment of an ad hoc committee for the facial recognition policy. That's one I have. And we didn't vote on this last one for a future. There's no motion yet does that need to go through a formal?
I think we vote the next meeting, right?
So do you want to put this on to vote next?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess my statement. I'll move to create that page.
I'll second that.
Chair Lee? Yes. Board Member Bras?
Yes.
Board Member Naran?
Yes.
Board Member Stewart?
Yes.
Board Member Cohen Thompson?
Yes.
Board Member Owen?
Yes.
So it's motion's passed to agendize the item to build a page for the Flock information.
Do you need me to clarify, or are we okay?
You can clarify that, please.
Okay. Yeah. So the idea is again to create a page where not folks, but a public page, facing page that has information on the Flock system. So if in the course of 30 days, PD downloads a page of or whatever data they've gathered through Flock, because we only keep it for 30 days, so there shouldn't be tons of it, but obviously within a month, that can be shared without sharing too much information in terms of maybe location data, which folks will probably gather if there's images attached to it, and any other data that might compromise the system.
And that's different than what we're currently publishing in the meetings.
Yes.
But a web page version of this?
A web page version, literally, of whatever the Flock audit log looks like. It could be date, time, maybe not location, but date and time and whatever else is a part of the current Flock audit capabilities.
So it's audit centric to provide the visibility into what's allowed to be presented.
Yes.
In visuals or data metrics.
Yes.
So that's what I will describe as what we're agendizing.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, can we get if it's possible to get a sample of what that Flock audit log looks like?
I will bring that to the captain and
okay, thank you.
Have him respond to that.
Okay. Any other comments before? Any comment? Go ahead.
So first, we'll be meeting with VPD as part of the subcommittee, ad hoc committee on auditing, and I will raise that question to see what sort of auditing they can do and that they could publish and see what they say. I would also add, as far as future agenda items, I had 2 issues, and I'm not committed to either, but I wanted to raise them because they've sort of been they were discussed at some point earlier this year and then forgotten about, and I wanted to get back to them to see if they are things we wanted to pursue. One was the issue of whether we want some sort of more formalized system of getting experts here to actually discuss substantive issues like, for instance, facial recognition and its efficacy. I know we have a process by which we can get experts, but we had discussed as part of our work plan whether we wanted to develop a stable of experts that we could call on quickly, or still remains to be seen whether we'll get any sort of budget for that, but perhaps we have some volunteer experts that people know that we could bring in. So that's one item that I would potentially agendize if others are interested. The other, similarly, was about training for new members of the board. We had discussed it, I think, in the context of the work plan as well, although I don't know if it made it to the final. But the idea of providing some sort of documentation or standardized set of, these are the codes we look at, these are the PD policies that are most relevant that have to do with surveillance, in a packet form that we could provide new members of the Surveillance Advisory Board, so we're not just coming in blind. Even though all of us have a lot of technical capability and we're on here for a reason, I think it would be very helpful for people to come with a little of that information provided by the city when they first sit down. So those 2 items I would put up as potential agenda items.
Thank you, Board Member Bross. Before adjourning, I have a question for that.
I'm sorry, we wanted to agendize one or both of those items, correct?
I'll move. I'll move to agenda both of them.
Let's take them one at a time.
All right, fine. I'll move to agendize the continuation of the work plan discussion of creating a system of inviting experts to come speak.
Second.
Chair Lee?
Yes.
Board Member Bross?
Yes.
Board Member Naran?
Yes.
Board Member Stewart?
Yes.
Board Member Cohen Thompson?
Yes.
And Board Member Owen?
Yes.
Motion is passed to agendaize the process of identifying expert speakers that could attend the SAB. Does that speak to it?
I will move a second item, which is to agendize the creation of some sort of training module for new members of the SAB.
Second.
May I ask a quick question? I'm all for this for sure. I remember Randy mentioning, the other Randy mentioning he was going to build something out. Do you know the status of that
Build something out.
in terms of what we're mentioning now?
Like a training manual
Yes.
for new SAB. I do not know the answer.
Okay.
But
I mean, the only thing that's been put out is the website on the city website where it goes to the SAB and it has references to the products, but I don't think it's ever been enhanced to specific training material. So did we have a sec? Okay, gotcha. Chair Lee,
Yes.
Board Member Bras,
Yes.
Board Member Naran,
Yes.
Board Member Stewart,
Yes.
Board Member Cohen Thompson,
Yes.
Board Member Owen.
Yes.
Motion to develop a training material for future members to onboard has passed unanimously. And to agendize that.
Yeah, thank you. Now, before adjourning, I have a question for the city attorney and/or secretary. In moving the information calendar, like we voted to move the information calendar ahead of the action calendar this evening. What would be the process to make that change permanent for all subsequent meetings? Would we just simply?
So that was number 11, right? 11A or?
Well, right. We voted to move the information calendar ahead of the action calendar.
so I think the suggestion is for all future meetings to have
Correct.
that item always be before the action
Exactly,
calendar.
Right. So is the process to agendize to vote on it next meeting is for this as well, or? This is like a structure. It's It's a structure of the meeting question.
Quite frankly, unsure if we need
Okay.
to vote on the matter, but we'll look into that. I think we can just agendize
Can
it
I
as-
jump in? I believe I've seen other commissions do it, and what they've done is essentially make it a future agenda item, and then where they address it like we did everything else.
Okay, so let's go ahead, just in case, to future agendize this item. I propose moving the information calendar permanently ahead of the action calendar for all subsequent SAB meetings.
Second.
Chair Lee,
Yes.
Board Member Bras,
Yes.
Board Member Naran,
Yes.
Board Member Stewart,
Yes.
Board Member Cohen Thompson,
Yes.
Board Member Owen.
Yes.
Motion to move the information calendar to above the action calendar to be agendized has passed unanimously.
Thank you. Now, this was just a prophylactic measure. Maybe we can just do that without the voting. But City Attorney, you'll confirm that ahead of the next meeting and email us. Thank you.
Correct.
Super. Okay. Now, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.